What is up, guys? I'm Hubsmash, and I'm going to create a new series for Paragon. This is kind of a beginner's guide series. And in this one, I'm going to focus on deck building. This is going to be a pretty rough around the edges video. I'm just going to kind of go through my deck building process raw, and hopefully it's helpful. In order to show everything, I'm just going to kind of build a random deck for Grux. I haven't put a lot of thought into it. I'm just going to build it. If I focus too much on Grux specifically, it'll take away from the genericness of the building system and the way that you go about it. So, without further ado, let's kind of get into it. First, you're going to go into your profile. You're going to click Decks and click New Deck. This unlocks at level 5, by the way, the deck builder. You're going to choose Grux. And you have an option to copy cards from your starter deck. And if you just unlocked the deck builder, I recommend doing that because you might not have enough cards to just build your own deck the way you want. So it's a good idea to copy from these starter decks and then fill them in as you can. But for our purposes, we're going to assume that we can start from the beginning. The first thing that you're going to want to pick is your Prime Helix. These cards have no cost in the game. They basically give you a passive buff that's applied as soon as your team captures the OP buff, the Orb Prime. He's dropped, the Orb Prime's dropped by the purple guy. And basically you can use that, or grab that purple buff, bring it to the designated spot on the map, and it will activate whichever Prime Helix you've equipped. So we're going to equip the Centurion. Pretty much every single deck is going to have a Prime Helix card, a health pot here, and a mana pot, and then they're going to want to have a harvester key or perhaps a scout's ward. So I'm going to select harvester key because I tend to jungle and roam with Grux. If he was a champion that I would, or if he was a hero that I would lane with, I'd probably pick up a scout's ward as well. I don't tend to lane with Grux, but if I did, I might have that as well, just as a backup, let's say. So depending on the matchups and things like that. Something to note, you can only utilize 60 card points in a game. You can discard cards to get a full refund of those card points, but you can't reuse that card or the upgrades on it again. Another important thing to note is that upgrade cards can only be applied to equipment that has upgrades that has that stat on it already. So let's take a look at the equipment. I'll show you what I mean there. Let's say I had this card here. Red Eye Nitro. It has attack speed and crit chance on it. I couldn't go and put health in those upgrade slots. I would have to do either attack speed or crit, and I could do whatever mix of that I want. I just can't put on anything but attack speed or crit. I couldn't fill it with armor. The other thing to take note is that there are affinities in the game. So you can see here that it has this red up here. That means and it says right on it, the affinity is Fury. There's also this affinity here, Corruption. So you can see that Grux can use Corruption cards and Fury cards, and then these dark gray, are universal. The other colors are green for growth, blue for intellect, a really light gray / white for order, and I believe that's it. So there's 5 affinities and then universal, making 6. An easy way to keep track of everything and make sure that every card point's used is to have all of your cards, when they're fully upgraded, equal 10. The way you do this is pretty straightforward, but you'll essentially pick a card. Let's just pick this card, and we're going to want to upgrade this with attack speed, let's say. So we want to change this to upgrade and select kinetic. You can also use the filter to find the cards. But for the purposes of this, we're just going to select a 3-cost card and 2 2-cost cards. So now we have a 3-cost equipment card, a 3-cost upgrade, which brings it to 6 total, and then 2 2-cost cards for 4. So we add 4 to the 6 and we got the 10. The reason you do that is because you can have 6 cards total, right? So if you have 6 cards and they all cost 10, it's really easy to know that you're going to hit that 60 card point cost maximum. You can have a card cost 14, but that means that another card in your deck's probably going to have to cost 6. So you'll have to fill it with a bunch of 1-cost cards. And actually, 1-cost cards aren't super common. So it can be difficult to actually fill your deck out that way. But the 3-cost and the 2-cost are fairly common. I mean, you could put 2 3-cost cards into this, right? If you wanted to. But then you're going to have a 9-cost card. And then if you put a 2 in there, now it's an 11-cost card. And it just makes it a little bit harder to work with when you're building your cards in game, because now you have an 11-cost card. The next card you might want to build a 9 just to make the 2 slots equal 20. It's something to keep in mind as you're going. So I try to stick to that 10-cost card. I know that games don't always finish, so you don't always have to work directly towards that 60 maximum, but it's a good idea to have that in mind as you build. Because if the game does go to full build, you know, you might have a open slot that you can't fill properly because you've spent too many card points on previous cards. So it's definitely something you want to keep in mind. So the way that I build my deck is kind of like that. I'll choose equipment and I'll build out each card as we go. So let's say that my first card tends to be Adamant Edge. So I'll pick this, and I also tend to fill this with damage. So you see it's got physical damage and max health on it. So I'll select upgrade and I'll choose strike. Actually, I'll show you the filter. Choose upgrade, filter, physical damage. These are the physical damage cards I have. So we're going to finish the Adamant's Edge. So we're going to put a 3-cost strike and 2 2-cost strikes, making for a 10-cost Adamant's Edge. And that card's done. So that's our first card done. Now we're going to move to our second card. What are we going to buy for our second card? We're going to call it Berserker's Drive. We're going to throw that in there. This has physical damage, cooldown reduction, and attack speed on it. So let's say that we want to add cooldown reduction. We're going to take... Oh, sorry, I'm still in equipment. We want to click upgrade, and we want to choose something that has cooldown reduction. These are the cooldown reduction cards that I have. So I think that it might be a good idea to take this 3-cost Fierce Chrono, throw that on there, and then maybe I want to throw attack speed on there as well. So I'll select attack speed, select attack speed upgrade, and we're going to put 2 of those on there. Because I have a 3-cost Fierce Chrono, 7.5% cooldown reduction, and then 2 13 attack speeds. That'll make a 10-cost Berserker Drive. So now 2 cards are built, right? So we built 2 cards. We're going to build our third card. Our third card, maybe we want some defense, let's say. And the easiest way for us to get some defense, we want some Tempered Plate. This will give us physical armor and max health. So let's finish off our physical plate here, or our tempered plate. We'll select the tempered plate, upgrade, and we're going to put health on it, let's say. So we're going to put a 3-cost and then 2 2-cost health on that. So now it's going to be a card that gives us a bunch of health and a bunch of armor as well. 66 armor total after it's fully upgraded. And that's how I go about it. Once you've finished that, all 6 of your cards, that's when that'll be your core. So normally you'll finish maybe, let's say 4 cards. You're always going to buy these same 4 cards. The rest of them are filler cards depending on what build you're going to go. So you build your 4, you build them out one at a time so that you're always making sure that you can upgrade those cards as you go. And then you build your filler cards and you make sure that you can upgrade those. And keep in mind though, that if one card replaces another card, so for example, if like instead of Adamant Edge, I want to have in there Amulet of the Veteran, which is kind of the same kind of deal, except for instead of focusing on damage from the fully upgrade bonus, it gives you health. So maybe I want to do that. I can use the damage upgrade cards from this one in this one. Because I'm probably not going to have both of these. Although I could. So you do that for all 6 of your cards, and you're basically done. You're pretty much all set. Here's one of the wards I was talking to you about. It's an Assassin's Ward. You select that, and you can see that it's got physical damage, physical pen, 4 lifesteal. So as a final thing, I'll just show you how I might upgrade this card. I might put penetration on, or lifesteal, or attack damage. But most likely, I'm probably going to put... This is a 3-cost card, right? I might want to put on Pierce. So I'll put on 2 Pierce. And then a 3rd Dire Pierce. And then for Drain, I'm going to put on a lesser Drain. Oh, you know what? So we have an example here. So we've got Dire Drain, Dire Pierce, and Pierce. So this card would cost 5, or 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 3 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So this would be a 12-point cost card. So now if we were going to use this card, we'd want to also have an 8-cost card to even things out. So let's make an 8-cost card. The way we'll do that is we'll just... Let's say we wanted to also have some health. Like we wanted to increase our health pool. We'll go with equipment and max health. We want to increase our health pool. So we're going to go with Tempered Plate. Or no, let's try Tuned Barrier. Now to upgrade Tuned Barrier, we could put on Energy, Armor, or Health. So we'll choose our upgrade slot. We'll go to Energy, Armor. And we'll pick this as a 3. So now that's a 6-cost card, and we want 2 1-cost healths. Lesser health, 1, 2. So now that card is 3 plus a Greater Barrier. So it's Tuned Barrier's 3, Greater Barrier's 3, and 2 1-cost healths. So now that card costs 8, and it will even things out. So you want to keep that total cost in mind as you're building. That's the important thing. You don't want to be in a situation where you've spent 60 cards and have 1 slot left, because it's just not as efficient. Because these upgrades are pretty strong usually, the full upgrade bonus, like for example on Tempered Plate, is 44 physical armor. That's fairly strong. And you lose out on that if you have an empty card slot. You'll have more powerful 5 cards overall, but they'll be the same power strength as 6 cards. But you'll be lacking that extra upgrade bonus. So that's the way you go about it. That's how I go about it. It makes for an easy way to make sure that you have all the upgrades that you need. You've chosen your build path. You have situational equipment cards that you'll build out as well. And it will give you all the different components you need to make a primo deck. I hope you found that helpful. If you like this video, click that like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you want to see more stuff on Paragon, consider subscribing. Thanks so much, and take care.